Imagine walking down the streets of Jerusalem, where every stone bears centuries of history. Beneath layers of dust and ruins lies one of the most remarkable pieces of evidence ever found, proof of the exact spot where Jesus Christ was crucified. The past seems alive in the air, and every detail tells a fragment of that story. The search for Golgotha, the site of Jesus' crucifixion, has fascinated historians, archaeologists, and the faithful for centuries. Some believe it lies beneath the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, a place of Christian worship for nearly 2,000 years. Others argue that the true site is Skull Hill, a rock formation outside the old city that gained notoriety in the 19th century. The Bible describes Golgotha as the place of the skull, a reference that has led to various interpretations over time. Some believe the hill's shape inspired this name, while others interpret it as a deeper symbolic reference. For those who have sought the truth, only archaeology and history can provide the missing pieces of the puzzle. The Church of the Holy Sepulchre stands at the center of this debate, its walls layered with centuries of faith and history. Since the 4th century, Christian tradition has upheld this site as Golgotha, marking it as the location of Christ's crucifixion and resurrection. Beneath its foundations, discoveries made over the last century have added powerful evidence to support its claim. Excavations beneath the church in the 1960s uncovered a significant clue: a layer of soil containing remains of a 1st century garden. This aligns with the Gospel of John, which describes a garden near the site of the crucifixion. The presence of grape seeds, fig remains, and olive pollen confirmed that this area was once a cultivated garden, just as the scriptures recorded nearly 2,000 years ago. Further archaeological evidence emerged in the 1970s, revealing the location of an ancient gate leading outside the city. The New Testament describes Jesus being crucified outside Jerusalem's walls, and early accounts confirm that the site of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre once stood beyond the city's original boundaries. Over time, Jerusalem expanded, bringing the location within its walls, which has led to modern misconceptions about its position. One of the most compelling historical records comes from the Roman period. In 130 AD, Emperor Hadrian attempted to erase Christian landmarks by building a pagan temple over the very site Christians had been visiting for decades. This act of desecration meant to suppress the growing Christian faith, instead preserve the memory of Golgotha. When Constantine the Great converted to Christianity in the early 4th century, he ordered Hadrian's temple to be torn down and built the original Church of the Holy Sepulchre over the sacred site. The existence of this temple serves as historical evidence that the location was significant long before it became a formal place of Christian worship. Hadrian's attempt to erase its importance had the opposite effect. It preserved the memory of Golgotha for future generations. The site's importance is reinforced by the layers of history built upon it. Pilgrims traveled to this location for centuries, leaving behind inscriptions, relics, and testimonies that confirm the enduring belief in its authenticity. One of the most astonishing discoveries was made in the 1970s, when archaeologists uncovered an inscription carved into a stone beneath the church. The words, written by an early Christian pilgrim, read, "Yes, Lord, we will go." This inscription, the oldest Christian pilgrim message ever found, is a testament to the unwavering faith of those who traveled great distances to stand in this very place. The presence of this inscription, dating back to the earliest centuries of Christianity, confirms that believers have venerated this site for nearly 2 millennia. Remember to join our community by subscribing to this channel. In contrast, Skull Hill, the alternative location proposed in the 19th century, lacks historical and archaeological support. While its appearance resembles a skull, no early Christian traditions, writings, or discoveries connect it to the crucifixion. Unlike the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, which has layer upon layer of historical validation, Skull Hill was not recognized as a potential site until over 1,800 years after Jesus' death. Every piece of evidence points to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre as the authentic site of Golgotha. The historical accounts of early Christians, the archaeological discoveries of the garden and city gate, and the preservation of the site through Hadrian's temple all confirm its authenticity. In the year 130 AD, the Roman Emperor Hadrian ordered a radical transformation of Jerusalem. After crushing the Jewish revolt led by Simon Bar Kokhba, Hadrian sought to erase Jewish and Christian heritage from the city. He renamed Jerusalem as Aelia Capitolina, banned Jews from entering, and built a pagan temple over Golgotha, where Jesus had been crucified. Even Hadrian, an enemy of Christianity, acknowledged that the place was a holy site for early Christians. His strategy was, if he could bury Golgotha under layers of paganism, he could erase its significance forever. But instead of erasing history, he preserved it. By marking this place with his temple, Hadrian unknowingly confirmed its authenticity. 2 centuries later, in 325 AD, Emperor Constantine the Great embraced Christianity and sought to restore its sacred places. His mother, Helena, traveled to Jerusalem on a mission to locate Golgotha. Guided by local Christian tradition, preserved despite Roman oppression, she ordered the destruction of Hadrian's temple and commanded that a great church be built in its place. When the temple was torn down, what lay beneath it astonished those present: an ancient rock-cut tomb, precisely matching the biblical description of Jesus' burial site. The evidence was overwhelming. Constantine declared that this was indeed the place of Christ's crucifixion and resurrection, and in 335 AD, he completed the construction of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, ensuring that Golgotha's memory would never be lost again. For centuries, Christian tradition held that Golgotha lay beneath the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. But as modern archaeology developed, skeptics demanded physical proof. In the 1960s, an excavation led by Italian archaeologist Virgilio Corbo revealed something astonishing beneath the church: a garden from the 1st century AD. The Gospel of John, 1941, states, "Now, in the place where he was crucified, there was a garden." The verse was more than just a poetic description. Corbo's excavation uncovered grape seeds, fig remains, and olive pollen, proving that this area had been cultivated as a garden at the exact time Jesus was crucified. This discovery shattered doubts, providing direct archaeological evidence that the Church of the Holy Sepulchre was built in the right place. In the 1970s, Israeli archaeologist Naaman Avigad made another critical discovery. Excavating the Jewish quarter of the Old City, his team unearthed the remains of a Roman city wall and an ancient gate. Their discovery was groundbreaking. Hebrews 13:12 states, Jesus also suffered outside the city gate. The wall and gate that Avigad discovered belonged to the time of Jesus, proving that Golgotha, as described in the Bible, was outside Jerusalem's boundaries in the 4th century AD. Over time, the city's expansion brought Golgotha inside its walls, causing confusion in modern times. But archaeology confirmed what ancient Christians already knew. At the time of the crucifixion, this location was outside the city, just as the scriptures described. While the Church of the Holy Sepulchre is backed by nearly 2,000 years of uninterrupted tradition and archaeological findings, the alternative site, Skull Hill, lacks any historical or physical evidence. The Skull Hill theory emerged in the 1840s when Otto Trenius noticed a rock formation resembling a human skull and proposed it as Golgotha. Decades later, in 1883, British General Charles Gordon popularized the idea, leading to the Protestant belief that this was the true crucifixion site. However, no ancient sources mention Skull Hill as Golgotha. No early Christians worshipped there. No Roman records acknowledge it, and no archaeological discoveries have ever confirmed it. It is a site with no history, no relics, and no pilgrim testimonies. The Church of the Holy Sepulchre, in contrast, has layers of evidence spanning centuries, from early Christian inscriptions to architectural remnants from Constantine's time. Another argument for Skull Hill is that it lies outside the current Old City walls, while the Church of the Holy Sepulchre does not. However, this argument ignores the fact that Avogad's discovery of the 1st century city wall proved that the Holy Sepulchre was outside the city at the time of the crucifixion. The evidence aligns perfectly with biblical accounts. Among the most compelling discoveries at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre is an ancient inscription found in 1975, hidden beneath centuries of rubble. It reads, "Yes, Lord, we will go." This message, carved into stone by an early Christian pilgrim, is the oldest known inscription left by a follower of Christ at this site. It confirms that from the earliest days of Christianity, believers traveled here, recognizing it as the true place where Jesus was crucified. Hadrian tried to erase it. Constantine built a church to protect it. Empires rose and fell, but Golgotha's memory endured. The stones beneath the Church of the Holy Sepulchre whisper the truth, untouched by myths, theories, or modern speculation. The crucifixion was not an accident of history, nor was it a mere act of Roman justice. According to Christian doctrine, Golgotha represents the ultimate fulfillment of divine prophecy, a moment foretold in Scripture, carried out in blood, and sealed in victory. In Isaiah 53, written 700 years before Christ, the prophet described a suffering servant who would bear the sins of the world. He was pierced for our transgressions, crushed for our iniquities. The punishment that brought us peace was on him, and by his wounds we are healed. These words found their fulfillment on the rocky outcrop of Golgotha, where Jesus endured the agony of crucifixion. It was here that heaven met earth, where divine judgment was poured out, not on the guilty, but on the innocent. The Gospel of John describes Golgotha not only as a place of execution, but also as a garden. This detail is no coincidence. The entire story of redemption began in a garden, Eden, where mankind first fell into sin. Now, in a garden outside Jerusalem's walls, the price for that sin was paid in full. The cross became the bridge between ruin and restoration. To believers, Golgotha is not merely the site of a historical event. It is the ground zero of grace, the place where forgiveness was purchased with divine blood. time has not diminished Golgotha's importance. Every nail driven into Jesus' hands, every drop of blood spilled on that rock was for the sake of redemption, a truth that echoes through every generation. For millions of Christians around the world, Golgotha is not just a relic of the past, it is a reminder of a living promise. The cross stands as the ultimate declaration that suffering is not meaningless, that pain can have purpose, and that death does not have the final word. Are you enjoying the story? Support our channel by clicking the subscribe button. Every year, pilgrims from every walk of life make their way to the Holy Sepulchre, pressing their hands against the cold stones, bowing in silent reverence before the altar, and lighting candles as a testament to their faith. Many come burdened, carrying their own crosses of sorrow, guilt, or doubt. But in this place, they find reassurance that they are not forgotten, that they are loved beyond measure. Golgotha is the crossroads of faith, a place where humanity's worst was met with God's greatest mercy. Faith is not meant to remain confined within the walls of a church or the pages of a sacred text. Golgotha was not the end of the story, it was the beginning. The cross demands a response. In the book of 1 John 3:16, it is written, "This is how we know what love is. Jesus Christ laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay down our lives for our brothers and sisters." To truly grasp the significance of Golgotha is to understand that it calls for a life of action. It challenges believers to show grace where there is judgment, to love where there is hate, and to stand for truth in a world filled with compromise. These were not idle words. They reflected a commitment to carry the message of Christ beyond Jerusalem into the farthest reaches of the earth. Their faith did not stay at Golgotha. It moved forward, transforming lives, empires, and history itself. The story of Golgotha does not end with the Church of the Holy Sepulchre and Skull Hill. Over the centuries, new theories, surprising discoveries, and different perspectives have surfaced, each offering a unique take on where Jesus may have been crucified. While many of these ideas lack the historical weight of the Holy Sepulchre, they continue to fascinate historians, archaeologists, and believers worldwide. The search for Golgotha is not just about finding a place on a map. It is about understanding the events that took place there and what they mean to the world today. Even as evidence points strongly toward the traditional site, some researchers continue to investigate alternative possibilities. One lesser-known theory suggests that Jesus may have been crucified on the Mount of Olives, east of Jerusalem. This idea is based on several interpretations of biblical texts, including Zechariah 14:4, which describes the Lord standing on the Mount of Olives in the end times. Some scholars argue that if Jesus was fulfilling prophecy, his crucifixion might have taken place there, rather than on the western side of the city. Supporters of this theory claim that the Mount of Olives would have been a more visible location for a public execution, ensuring that the Roman authorities could use it as a warning to others. Additionally, the mountain was associated with religious significance in Jewish tradition, making it a fitting place for such an event. However, there is no archaeological or historical evidence to support this idea. No early Christian traditions mentions the Mount of Olives as a possible site for the crucifixion, and Roman execution practices typically took place near roads leading into cities, making Golgotha a more likely location. In 1980, the discovery of a tomb in Talpiot, a neighborhood in Jerusalem, gave rise to another controversial claim. Inside the tomb were several bone boxes, or ossuaries, with inscriptions bearing names such as Jesus, son of Joseph, Mary, and Judah, son of Jesus. Some researchers, including filmmaker Simcha Jacobovici, have suggested that this tomb belonged to Jesus and his family. This theory gained widespread attention in 2007 when it was featured in the documentary The Lost Tomb of Jesus, produced by James Cameron. The film argued that Jesus was not resurrected as described in the Bible, but was instead buried in this tomb with his family. Historians, archaeologists, and biblical scholars met the claim with overwhelming criticism. Experts pointed out that the names on the ossuaries were incredibly common in first-century Jewish society. Finding a tomb with the names Jesus, Mary, and Joseph was no more surprising than finding a modern tomb with names like John, Sarah, and David. Additionally, there was no direct evidence linking this site to Jesus of Nazareth. The vast majority of scholars rejected the theory, and it is now regarded as sensationalized speculation rather than legitimate historical evidence. While the location of Golgotha remains debated, archaeology has provided new insights into Roman crucifixion practices that help us better understand the suffering Jesus endured. If you're enjoying this history, consider clicking Super Thanks. Your support helps us uncover more hidden truths and bring powerful stories like this to life. In 1968, in an area known as Givat HaMivtah, north of Jerusalem, the remains of a crucified man from the 1st century were found. His name was Yehohanan, and his bones provided the first ever physical evidence of Roman crucifixion. His heel bone still had a nail driven through it, proving that the Romans did indeed execute criminals in this brutal manner. Until this discovery, some historians doubted whether crucifixion was truly as described in the Bible, as no physical remains had been found to confirm it. The discovery of Yehohanan's bones erased those doubts, proving that crucifixion was a real, widespread practice in the time of Jesus. Beyond archaeology, early Christian writings and traditions offer additional insights. While the New Testament provides the primary account of Jesus' crucifixion, other texts written in the first few centuries of Christianity expand on the details. The Gospel of Peter, an early Christian text from the 2nd century, describes the crucifixion with additional supernatural elements, such as the cross itself, speaking, and coming out of the tomb. While not included in the Bible, it reflects how early Christians understood and honored the event. The Acts of Pilate, another early text, claims that Roman authorities kept official records of Jesus' trial and crucifixion. Though no such records have ever been found, this idea has fueled speculation that more evidence could still be hidden beneath the ruins of ancient Jerusalem. The search for Golgotha has inspired many documentaries and investigations over the years, each trying to bring new light to this ancient mystery. The Case for Christ, 2017. Based on the real-life journey of journalist Lee Strobel, this film follows an atheist's attempt to disprove Christianity by examining the historical evidence for Jesus' life, death, and resurrection. Risen, 2016. A fictional yet historically grounded story about a Roman soldier investigating the disappearance of Jesus' body, offering a unique perspective on the events surrounding the crucifixion. The Real Jesus of Nazareth, 2017, History Channel. hosted by actor Robert Powell, who portrayed a Jesus in the 1977 film Jesus of Nazareth. This documentary explores the latest archaeological findings related to Jesus' life and death. These films and documentaries bring historical and biblical research to a wider audience, helping people visualize and understand the events surrounding Jesus' crucifixion in ways the text alone cannot achieve. While the majority of scholars, archaeologists, and religious authorities affirm that the Church of the Holy Sepulchre is the true location of Golgotha, the search for new details never stops. Each new discovery, whether a fragment of pottery, an inscription, or a new tomb, adds another piece to the vast puzzle of history. Thanks for watching. Join our community by subscribing to this channel. Until the next video.